Now, a starter system. What is it? How does it work? And how can we diagnose it? Well, we got one laid out right here on a board for you to see. Starter system's pretty simple. Starts at the key. You turn the key to start. When you turn the key to start, the power's then going to run, and it's going to go through a neutral safety switch. You know, you can only start your car in park or neutral, or a clutch switch if you have a manual transmission. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to go through a relay or a solenoid. And all this is doing is just transferring high amps with small amps. It's like a relay. And then it sends it over to the solenoid, and of course the starter is going to run. So if I turn the key, the power completes, the starter turns over. Now, a couple of tests you want to make, and you can do this right out in the driveway. Just be careful when you're underneath the car. There's two places I want some voltage at the starter. To begin with, I have to have 12 volts here at the bat terminal. It's the big one coming into the starter. Now be careful, if your battery's connected, that's hot. I'm going to come over to ground, and I don't even need to turn the key, and I'm showing 12.61. That's the first place you want 12 volts. There's also another place, it's called the start wire. When I turn that key, we need 12 volts at that place. Well, that's located right here. Now what you get there is you'll get a lot less than 12 volts. You may get 10, even 9, because the starter's consuming a lot of the voltage when I turn it over. So let's watch the meter. We're doing 10. Your car may be 9 or even a little less because you got the mechanical resistance of the engine, which is drawing a lot more electricity. But if you have it at those two places, you're in good shape. You know it's a starter, and that's what's happening to us. That's why Brian's replacing the starter. We got voltage there, and the starter's not working. Now, if the voltage was low, that means you have resistance somewhere in the circuit. And I can show you a cool trick. It's called voltage drop. It checks for resistance. We're looking for lost voltage. I'll go on the positive cable first. And when I go on the positive, we're actually going to go from positive to positive. So I'm coming all the way up to the bat. Positive to positive, I don't have any voltage. But when I run the car, the voltage and pressure is going to go through there along with the amps, and we're going to see if we lost any, and that's what the meter is actually going to read. There's about 0.2 or 0.2 of a volt. If you had more than 0.5 of a volt, it's going to start to actually go slow. We're going to lose the voltage. Instead of the 12, now we got what? 11.5. You drop a volt, I'm down to 10. We got a problem. So you got to go in there and find what's causing resistance. It could be a loose cable. It may be a loose battery cable. It just may be some corroded wires. Now that test also applies on the negative side. So we can go over to the negative to negative. So I'm going to the negative battery cable, and the starter's grounded to the block. So if I just ground this lead here, once again we have nothing. But watch when we push the voltage and amperage through. 0.1, a little more than that. That's fine. More than a half a volt, once again, voltage drop, a problem. The starter could be loose, the negative cable, it's not getting back to the battery. That's voltage drop. Now we also have some other issues called sound or noise we talked about. The clicks, the shims, and what's going on with that. Well, it's real simple. I got a starter bolted up right here and you can see it. I can actually run it, but when I run it, listen to it. You hear that high-pitched whine? Well, that high-pitched whine means that the starter's actually too far away from the flywheel. So if it's too far away from the flywheel, you want to take a couple of these shims and you want to remove it, and that'll push it up closer to the flywheel. Now, on the other hand, if I'm turning it over and it's fine, it sounds good, and I release the key, and then you hear a high-pitched whine, woo! What that is it's actually too close, so you want to add some shims. You want to make sure that's right, because look at this flywheel right here. This one wasn't right, and what happened? It ate it to pieces. Now Brian's underway. He's working really hard. Let's check in with him and see how it's going with our starter.
Well, John, we're looking pretty good. I think you're getting home tonight. We've got the old starter off. Now, quick inspection here. Look at this gear and see if there's any damage. Remember, John talked about that alignment? Doesn't appear to be any here, and we really didn't have any of those symptoms, so I think we're okay. Now, before you put in the new starter, you want to use a really important tool, your cell phone, because you want to inspect that flywheel. And many times, if you're out under the vehicle in the driveway, it's hard to see up into that window. Get your cell phone, get it up in here, get a good hold, turn your flash on, and get a good look at that flywheel. So now, I'm going to call it up and take a look, and I'll tell you what, it looks pretty good. I don't see any damage there. Again, we're not looking at the whole thing, but it's enough to give you a clue that it's okay. So, final step, before you install your new starter, you want to hold it up to the old one, compare the mounting brackets, check the number of posts on the solenoid, Everything looks good. This is a really good CarQuest starter. It's going to have a long life. It's interesting that on this big V8, this is such a small starter. Remember, John talked about the gear reduction. So this is going to do the job. I'm going to reverse engineer this, start with the low voltage wire connection right here, work it back up in, install my 2 mounting bolts. Of course, I'm going to torque them, and we're getting ready to get John back on the road. Well, stay with us on Tech Garage, presented by Advance Auto Parts.